Good morning. I'm Kelly Hansan, and this is the weather challenge for day 7 for KDFW Dallas for November the 21st, 06Z through November the 22nd, 06Z. So that's Thursday into early Friday. And let's go ahead and get started here. So I'd like to start looking at METARs here just to get an idea of what is going on at the surface. And obviously I'm not going to go into all the details of this area and the terrain since we're on day 7 now. Everyone's pretty familiar with the area, but we're at 61 degrees for the temperature, dew point at 59, do have mostly cloudy skies. And also the winds out of the south, little breezy right now, around 9 or 10 miles per hour. And you can see if we zoom out a little bit farther, maximum high is normally right around 75 degrees, and the average low is 44, and the record high was 83 back in 1967, and the record low 40 degrees in 1929. Likely not going to break any of these records, and we're also likely going to be well above normal for this area as well. So we'll get to that. Let's take a look here at the Storm Prediction Center. This is for day 2. And check it out. We actually have a marginal risk of severe weather. I think this is the first time in the weather challenge that we've actually had any kind of threat of severe weather, much less much thunderstorm activity, period. Now keep this in mind. This is a big point of this. It is from 12Z tomorrow through Friday at 12Z. So that's something to keep in mind. Depending on the front and the timing of when it actually moves. All right, so let's take a look here at our satellite infrared, and you can see we do have this trough diving down here across the Midwest. We have this ridge that's moving through as well, and this area of low pressure that we're watching out for, bringing in some scattered showers through here, here, and here. So let's take a look what is currently going on. We just looked at the main parts. We know that's where our temperature is, but what's also interesting is that yesterday we were really well above average with temperatures getting up to 79 degrees yesterday afternoon. Now we've been basically, we did drop into the upper 50s this morning, low 60s right now, low visibility too, and we're also seeing the dew points really rising. That's something interesting. Someone in class brought this up, and I love it. It's really, really cool. But notice how those dew points are really rising, and that's also important because of those southerly breezes and getting us in those beautiful seasonality conditions. So here's what we're going to have going on as far as precipitation goes. You can see that we have a lot of rain, different pockets of rain here down in Louisiana. We also have the northern plains seeing some precipitation too. So let's go and take a look at the GFS because I do believe it is doing the best right now. This is the 06Z initialized run. And I think it's doing a pretty good job. It's got the northern plains. It's got some of those pockets of rain. While it's not high resolution, you can see we do have, it is interpreting and taking in a lot of that data of the rain that's been pushing into the west coast with those areas of low pressure. So we'll go ahead and use the GFS just to kind of run through some of those different parameters. And we'll start at the upper levels. 300 millibars, and watch this guy. This upper level low is going to be important with this forecast for today, tomorrow, and on Friday. So as we go through here hour by hour, this is 18Z today, but now we'll go to 6Z for the actual challenge period. Now it's moving in a little bit closer into those four corners and into our forecast area. We have that trough dipping down, providing some of that westerly, southwesterly flow, and likely going to see some of those winds mixing down. So we'll continue to progress through this area, and we still have some very strong winds. This is at 0Z tomorrow night, and then moving ahead to the end of the period, we're going to start to really see those stronger airs just north of the forecast area, but those strong winds could mix down as that surface system moves into the area. So that is something to remember and in your forecasting for tomorrow. Looking at our 700 vorticity, we'll go into the forecast period, which is starting at 6Z on Thursday. And down here, obviously, is what we're going to be watching out for. A lot of unsettled conditions with bringing instability into the area off the west coast with that upper level low. As it continues to spin, we can see that we are going to see some vorticity moving in. Let me back that up. I went a little too far through here. But we do have some of this vorticity that could help enhance some of the showers and thunderstorms that we have moving through. Taking a look at the 850 millibar temperatures. And this is starting this, back this up a little bit. Moving ahead a tiny bit here. Go through 06Z. Scroll down a little bit. We have some good warm air advection moving into this area. Notice, let me get this arrow going here. As we go through 12Z on Thursday, those winds still stay out of the south and pretty breezy at 850 millibars, allowing that warm air advection to start to push in. This is 12Z on Friday. Notice we're going to start to see this colder air pushing back in. But for our forecast period, we're definitely going to be watching out for those winds to continue to turn out of the south, allowing that warm air advection to continue to pump into the area. Moving on to 850 millibar dew point. And I'll back this one up as well. And we'll start it at the forecast period. And that's 6Z for tomorrow. Check out all of this moisture. We have really good moisture at the 850 millibar. And that's good for some storm development. And those winds stay out of the south-southwest, and then we really pick up still moisture all the way to the end of the forecast period. And taking a look at the surface, and again, I'm staying with the GFS right now because I do like how it's been initialized when it took in the data for this 06Z run earlier today. Moving through tomorrow, we start this at 6Z. And we're watching out for a couple of areas of low pressure. This one with the frontal boundary, that's going to push in on Thursday night. So as we move forward into 18Z, now this is 06Z, all the way into the end of the forecast period, here we go. Here is the boundary, and doesn't look great as far as precipitation goes, but this could be a lot more intense than the GFS is actually putting out there. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the SKUTs here, the soundings. And starting this one here at 6Z, the beginning of our forecast period. And again, this is the GFS. And here we do have the dew point and the air temperature. Check out that air temperature even at midnight tonight, 69 degrees. So very warm air. That temperature is not going to move much because of the warm air advection that we have. And as we go into the rest of the day, we see that we have the dew point really lining up with the temperature. So we know that there is at least going to be a low cloud deck and likely some rain at some point because we have a lot of moisture there. Now, I do take this with a grain of salt. Marginal tornado possible with this. it just kind of gives you an idea of what's going on. Maybe a heads up here that we have on this photograph that this is showing a little bit of curvature. So possibly some rotation with the winds. And you can see that here as they do start to shift a bit. So there could be some rotation, but I think stronger wind shear is going to be the main concern. And looking at some of the parameters here, we'll just look at the mid-level. Cape is at 600. Our SIN is at -8. LI is at -2. So we do have some parameters for some possibly strong conditions here. And this is at 0Z tomorrow. So let's go to the end of the forecast period here with this GFS look. This is 6Z for early Friday. Again, marginal severe. Photograph is not as great here, but we also have still very strong winds. So that is going to be concerned for possibly some wind shear at the surface. And even from top to bottom, we do have some pretty decent cape. We have some high SIN at the surface, but possibly get that broken through by early evening tomorrow into early Friday morning. LIs -2 and below. So some decent parameters for some severe weather. Let's go ahead and take a look at the NAM 3K just to kind of go over a little bit closer look here, a little higher resolution, and go through here starting the forecast period at 6Z. So you may have forecasted a little bit of precipitation for Dallas-Fort Worth area for today because of this moving through. But that's not our main concern. We have this area of low pressure. We are tapping into a lot of Gulf moisture. We have this approaching low with the cold front. And this is 0Z tomorrow evening. So we have some precipitation around. And then as we go to 060, look, we have the front starting to move in. So this is going to be pretty big, important part of your forecast is the timing of this boundary and how it moves through. Looks like this is where the boundary is really going to start being a little bit stronger. And this model not showing that it's going to be strong, but the parameters do look pretty good because we have the front. It's going to stall out, likely showers, likely a few thunderstorms tomorrow evening into early Thursday morning. Excuse me, Friday morning. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at this NAM 3K and starting it also, this is right now at 03, so let's go to 6Z. Here we go. We have a dry slot of air, but a lot of moisture from the surface all the way up until we get to about 750 millibars. So some dry air that could help enhance some of those stronger storms later on. In fact, this is showing severe. Again, just take a look at those parameters. See what your thoughts are. Not great cape, so not a lot of instability. LIs are just okay. Pretty strong SIN at the surface. So not feeling great about that early on for severe. But just to give you the heads up, remember we do have that risk of severe weather from the Storm Prediction Center. While it is a very marginal risk, it's still a risk. And just gives us the heads up that we need to pay attention. So as we go through the hours here, again, likely going to see some fog at the surface first thing tomorrow morning as the dew point and the air temperature close together. Notice those temperatures really not going to fall off much at all tomorrow, at least during the morning hours. This one, again, showing marginal severe. This is at 15Z, so late, about mid-morning to late morning tomorrow. Cape is not great at the surface, but the higher up we go, a little bit stronger cape we get. So unstable air, we have some strong SIN at the surface, and mid-level not too bad. And LIs are starting to get negative, so that's some good news there for trying to get severe weather. And notice that we do have a little bit of rotation. We have some strong winds, so we could see some wind shear at the surface. And let's go ahead and take this through a couple more runs here for the 18Z, again showing marginal severe. Look at all that moisture a little higher up to 700, maybe even 600 millibars with some good moisture. Just need that lifting mechanism. And the surface cape is better, and the most unstable Cape is not too bad too. So that's pretty decent. So we could see some heavier downpours with that, and that's something to keep in mind with your forecast period as well. This is still tomorrow night. This one's showing possibility of tornado. We do have some rotation in the hodograph, and we also have some good parameters for instability in the atmosphere. Not much sin at all, so that's good. Cape is looking decent, and LI is good too. So that's when the boundary moves in, and that's when we could really see some of those stronger storms tomorrow night for our forecast area. And much of the same here. We also have that, the hodograph looking good. And again, this is at 0Z. And let's take it to the very end. This is 0.3. And then we finally see the temperatures falling. So guess what? This is when that boundary starts to really move through the cold front, and things really start to die down as far as any kind of instability goes. Despite the fact this is showing severe. At least that's my opinion. All right, I mentioned that temperatures are going to be basically holding near steady tonight, so we'll start this forecast period 6Z. Look at those upper 60s. We drop into the mid 60s and then get back to around 70 degrees tomorrow afternoon. This is the GFS. Let's take a look at the NAM. Starting this during the forecast period, upper 60s. And we stay near steady in those upper 60s until tomorrow evening, where we start to drop back. And it starts to drop pretty drastically into those upper 50s by 6Z on Friday. So that's very interesting to me as well. We also have those strong winds that start to ramp up here. The wind speeds, again, that's part of the forecast. So those knots could be ramping up when that cold front moves through. Let's take a look at the meteogram quickly here. We have not a lot of moisture according to the model data. Now, I do think we could still see some heavier rain with all of those dew points in the 850 millibar levels, showing that we have some decent rain, but this is only showing a few hundredths of an inch, so not loving that, but I do think we could see some pockets of heavy rain inside of some of those thunderstorms. Hourly temperature forecast. As we see here, this is 6Z. Notice these temperatures really don't drop off much, don't warm up much either, but then as we get to the end of the forecast period at 6Z, starts to drop off, and then it really drops down as much colder air moves in behind the cold front. Also, let's take a quick look at some wind speeds as we get into 6Z. We have the winds not too bad, and then they start to really ramp up gust-wise by the end of the forecast period because of that front moving in, and that we have some strong wind shear, so that is going to play a part in some of the wind forecast. Okay, so that is my forecast for day 7. I hope that helps you get your challenge done, and I wish you all the best in the final exam as well as the presentation. I know it is a beast to get through, and it's been pretty interesting, so good luck with that and have a great day.